Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fire Them Cannons. Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you are subscribing to the channel. This is our Premier League preview show. We look forward to the Premier League games this weekend. We're going to give you our predictions, of course, our upset alerts, if there are any that we have to pick today. Big weekend coming up. Of course, we're going to get into the North London Derby, of course, how we feel things will go on in Manchester between Newcastle and Manchester City, which is also a very big game. There are a few big games in here as well, so hope to entertain y'all. Of course, I will entertain y'all for this video, and if you want to put a cheeky bet on, of course, we're all about that right here on this program. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's begin, shall we? Our first preview of the weekend, and it's a 3 p.m. kickoff in the UK time. Aston Villa against Leeds. And well, let's give people kind of idea of the form both these teams get into coming into this game. Villa have won 2 of their last 5 games, and Leeds have won exactly the same. So very similar form coming into this one. I do think, though, however, Aston Villa is just a better team overall. Now, earlier on this season, what actually was the result when the two of them played away from, or Villa played away from home at Elland Road? It was, Villa did win 2-1 on that day, and I actually have them similar result. Going 2-1 to win at home. And the odds reflect that at $1.83 for Aston Villa. They got $3.60 for the draw and $4.33 Leeds, the outside shot. Now, of course, last time out, Leeds did come back from behind to get a draw away at Chelsea. So this is another similar sort of fixture, another big hitter away from home. But this time I do think that Villa have been a little bit more consistent overall than Chelsea this season. And I just do think that they will edge it in this game. Another 3 p.m. kickoff. Brentford against Brighton. Now, of course, last time out for Brentford, they got a 1-1 draw at home against the Gunners. They get their back-to-back home fixtures. And, of course, Brighton lost at Villa Park their last time out, so it's again a continuation of a two-game road trip or away trip. I don't know how you pronounce it in the British slang, but I call it a road trip for the Seagulls. And look, Brentford's a tough way to go away from home. I've applied this logic across the board throughout the entire season. There's no reason for me to back out now. When the two teams met each other, let's take a look at the Amex earlier in this season. Actually, Brighton got a 2-1 win. I am looking at these odds. It's, by the way, according to Sportsbet. Brentford 210, draw 360, Brighton 340. I think the odds should go in the favor of Brentford, and rightfully so. I actually think this will be a reverse of the previous matchup between the two teams, and Brentford win 2-1. Okay, let's go up. Chelsea is up next on the same time frame, 3 o'clock kickoff, Saturday, which will be today for all you guys watching. What's Chelsea's record against Burnley in recent times? Earlier this year, they actually went to Turf Moor on the 22nd of November and got a 2-0 win. Previously, of course, this was before Burnley. It was the last time they hosted. There was a 2-2 draw. This was before Burnley dropped. This was on the 31st of March, I believe, in 2024. This is before Burnley went down with Vincent Kompany. Chelsea have in their last 5 games, have 4 victories and a draw. Burnley's results, 1 win in their last 5. Of course, that's why they're at the bottom of the table. But their last win was a comeback from behind win in London as well against Crystal Palace. I'm not going to muck about here, all right? The odds tell you pretty obviously that Chelsea are basically bang on at 120 and Burnley all the way out at $13. The draw, by the way, for all those interested, is 7. You can see, by the way, all these numbers on the screen for the odds. And yeah, I think it's going to be a straightforward 3-0 win for Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. That's kind of how I'm feeling in this game, predicting it. Interesting to know what your guys' thoughts are on how Chelsea get along this weekend. For me, I think it seems like one of those games that should be pretty straightforward. You got a team that's basically down in the dumps and a Chelsea team that's fighting for Europe. I think Chelsea take care of that. The next game up, which is the 5:30 evening, early evening kickoff. We'll call it sunset kickoff because basically bang on sunset. West Ham host Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth have been one of the most informed sides in the Premier League this year. They have not lost, I believe, in their last 7 games, including since they played Arsenal. In the last 5, it's 3 wins, 2 draws. On the other hand, West Ham have also been pretty good. 3 wins in their last 5 and a draw. So both of these teams go into this one on pretty decent form. West Ham do have the home advantage. And look, it's evens according to Sportsbet. $2.45, $2.55. Slight edge they've given to the Hammers. And I am going to go along that line and say it's going to be a 2-2 draw. Again, it's going to halt a little bit of that Bournemouth momentum, but I think for West Ham, this is a valuable point to pick up. In the scenario of the league that would put them to 25 points, that would kind of put them 2 points behind Forest and 4 behind Spurs. Kind of put a little bit of pressure on them. I think, West Ham would love to win this game, but I do kind of think that Bournemouth themselves have been on good form. So I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a competitive game, but I think it's going to peter out into a 2-2 Desmond, in my opinion. And now, guys, to finish off our Saturday games and halfway through these fixtures, Manchester City taking on Newcastle at the Etihad. Now, I spoke in my group chat for Fire Them Cannons. I said to the people, Newcastle's going to win against Manchester City. I'm going to say that. I want that. I hope that. Please, God, make that happen. Right? That's what I'm trying to put into the universe. But I also have to make my picks and go with my head over my heart. The odds clearly state that they believe that City probably should have a straightforward win. It's $1.50 for the Man City win. Newcastle out at $5. The draw at $4.75. And by that logic, I do think that City is going to win 2-1. Now, in what order the goals come, I don't think it really matters. But I do kind of have City taking care of this game, winning 2-1. They would cut the lead to 2, so that is, not necessarily what we would want as Gooners, but we have to, as I've said on many occasions, unless it's a drop points, ignore it. If they win, okay, so cool. We expect that. Let's move on. Let's take care of our own business. So, yeah, that's the Manchester City side of it. Let's start off with our Sunday games, and this will be the 2 p.m. kickoff, which is, there are a bunch of them. How many of them are there? How many 2 p.m. kickoffs are there? There are 3 of them, just like there are 3 p.m. kickoffs today. So, Crystal Palace host Wolves. Now, last time out, for both of these teams, very different looking outlooks. Crystal Palace were 2-0 up at home against Burnley in the relegation zone and were 3-2 down before halftime and lost 3-2. So that wasn't great. The odds have it in their favor. Now, Wolves, on the other hand, hosted Top of the table Arsenal were 2-0 down and last minute got themselves an equalizer. Don't need to keep mentioning that all the time on this network, so I'll just skip over that as quickly as possible. But I do kind of feel like this is a game that's, we're going to be well balanced. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what Sportsbet or the betting people predict. I have gone I'm still with a Crystal Palace win, but I think it's a 3-2 win. I think Wolves will be up for this one, especially, if they can come back from 2-0 down against Arsenal, get a draw against Arsenal, they should back themselves against a Crystal Palace team. And I think Crystal Palace would have looked at that game and been like, uh-oh, that's probably not what we wanted. I mean, Palace have got 1 win in their last 5. Wolves, Wolves, as we know, are not doing well in the league overall. They're bottom. So I still think it's going to be a 3-2 win for Crystal Palace. That is my prediction for this one. Next one up at the City Ground, Nottingham Forest take on Liverpool. And by the way, let's bring up this stat. Their most recent fixtures between these two teams, and Nottingham Forest have been the bogey side for Liverpool in recent times. Let's go back their last 3 fixtures. 15th of September, 2024? Yeah, 2024. Nottingham Forest went to Anfield and won. Remember that? That was their first home loss, one of their only home losses of the season, but it was a shocker to start out the year. Closer to the beginning of the year, obviously. Then, by the way, when two teams played in this fixture last year, 1-1. It was a draw. They dropped 2 points, Liverpool, in that one. And then, of course, we all know what happened in November earlier in the season with, which manager was it at the time? Sean Dyche. Nottingham Forest shocked Liverpool, turned them over. And guys, I'm just gonna say this. This is where I have this. Sorry, history would dictate to me on the history of these two teams in recent times, on the form of these two teams in recent times. I've actually looked at their recent form. It's actually kind of quite similar. In their last 5 games, they got similar form between these two teams. And by the way, I know Vitor Pereira is coming in, so new manager bounce, if you want to call it. Unpredictability. I know Liverpool's last away game was a very inspirational 1-0 win against Sunderland, which, by the way, had the fans not really that, they weren't really that excited about it, which they really should have been, considering they're the first team to beat Sunderland away from home. But, yeah, this is my upset alert for the week, and I think that Nottingham Forest is going to be taking a point at City Ground against Liverpool. They did it against Arsenal about a month ago or so, and I think this might be a similar one of those games. Again, who scores first? Not for me to say, but I do think that this will end up becoming a 1-1 draw. All right, next up, with the final one of our 2 p.m. kickoffs on Sunday, and I've gone in. Wait, what are we doing here, mate? All right, yeah, I did my graphics wrong. All right, Sunderland against Fulham. Again, straight 270s, by the way. Even odds across the board, according to Sportsbet. Let me actually recheck that again. Yeah, 270 each. As you can see on the screen, because, I didn't... Actually, that other graphic I did wrong, see? That other graphic I did wrong. It should have said Sunderland against Fulham. Whatever. He's still the best in the game when it comes to this. Yeah, Sunderland 2-1 win is what I think. Yeah, again, Granit Xhaka is back, by the way. Fulham, by the way, under the radar. We've been talking about how good Fulham have been this year. They've actually got 1 win in 5. So they are leaning kind of on a really good run prior to that. But it hasn't been smooth sailing really in recent weeks for the Cottagers. And look, they are neck and neck in the table right now. Huge neck and neck in the table. Some of themselves are 2 and 5, but they have survived the Granit Xhaka injured period, and I do think that that's a big boost for them at home. I think, of course, having the recent defeats might spur them on for a reaction in this one, and I do think that I've got Sunderland winning 2-1. Of course, because they've given you even odds for this game, you can go either way, and it's almost the same. But I would just go with a Sunderland 2-1 victory. All right, let's get into what everyone wants to talk about on this program, and that is, of course, the North London derby. Arsenal against Tottenham. Of course, Arsenal's recent games include 2-2 draw against Wolves, and even before that, 1-1 draw against Brentford. That's since the last time we did an upset alert or Premier League preview show. Tottenham Hotspur obviously coming to this one in the relegation zone. I mean, not in the relegation zone, but fighting relegation. 5 clear of the relegation zone. They've, of course, now sacked, Thomas Frank. In comes Igor Tudor. Interesting hire. But for me, again, as I mentioned on my last 2 episodes, really more on Under Pressure, this is one of the bigger North London derbies for 2 different reasons on either side. One thing to point out, though, is I do want to take a look at kind of the injuries for Tottenham, and this is something that I want to point out. Odegaard is out ACL. Udogie hamstring. Let's see who it is. What was Igor Tudor's talk about? But what was the update? Igor Tudor's injury update. I can't really see, but according to this, Udogie is out. He's out. It says 4 to 5 weeks. That was as of the 9th of Feb. So yeah, Udogie's out. Kulusevski's been out for a long time. Danzo's out. Porro out. Madison out. Kudus out. Richarlison out. Bentancur, Davies, Berg. This is one thing that I think might work in Arsenal's favour. Again, this is a very, very injury-depleted Tottenham Hotspur. They've just changed manager, so there could be that little bit of bounce here. But I got to tell you, as much as the negativity is there in terms of Arsenal's recent games, and everybody wants to say Arsenal are vulnerable right now, I actually think, honestly, in my heart of hearts, that... By the way, this is going to be our preview, basically, for the North London derby in this channel. Before we get into the game, just letting you know, there aren't going to be really many streams. I don't think there'll be any really videos before this game, so this is kind of it. So I'll go into Arsenal's lineup a little bit as well, and what I want to see happen, and what we can expect from Tottenham. I'm going to look at some of their recent lineups, and because the injuries are out, and also kind of look at and kind of piece together what he could go to. Obviously, Tudor plays 3 at the back as well, so that's interesting to see if he sticks with their current formation or if he goes with, his system right on the bat, because they were 4-3-3 when they played Newcastle last time out. So there's so many complications and interesting things into this. But while I'll say overall my thoughts of the game is, I do think that Arsenal have a tendency to really, really focus on this game and to really bring the energy on this game. It's a thing that's been happening over recent time. In fact, to a point where I kind of complain that and ask questions as to why we don't come with the same intensity when we're not playing Tottenham in some certain other games. And I do think that if I could have picked any single team to play right now, given the circumstances, it would have been Tottenham. I think this is the type of game that we can raise our levels, really come back, make a statement. Everybody's going to be thinking that, waiting for this to be the weekend. We've been here before, remember? Remember Aston Villa at home? And I keep bringing this up even with Man United, but that weekend, everyone was waiting. That was the weekend that Man City were going to take over Arsenal. Remember that? We've returned back to that weekend from a narrative standpoint. And I just can't see Arsenal letting go of the rope right now. Especially not against Tottenham. I think there's an element of pride. Declan Rice has said it, that the boys have come together, they've had a meeting, and they think that this is the perfect time to have a big bounce back. And I think, for me, let's talk about the lineups. Let's start with Arsenal, and then we'll go into Tottenham, because that can be fun. For me, I'm from Arsenal. I said this yesterday. I go back into something. I'm not going to put up any graphics. I wish I did, actually. I should have been more prepared for that graphic, but I would have been sitting backstage doing graphics all day if that was the case. So I'll just go by mouth. I want Arteta to go back to something that's simple and familiar to get the best out of this, football team. Something that we can lean on. For me, I am going obviously with Raya in the goal. I am going to go as bad as he was coming on. You have to say in the circumstances coming on, I want Ricardo Calafiori at left back. When Arsenal are playing their best this season, Ricardo Calafiori was playing left back for Arsenal when we were at our best. Obviously, you want to maintain the partnership of Gabriel and Saliba. But on the right-hand side, guys, I'm going with Ben White. And I will tell you why. I do feel going forward, first of all, I think Timber's been on poor form. Let's just have it what it is. I think he needs to be dropped. I think he also looks very, very tired. And yeah, the game against Wolves, he was bad. He couldn't make passes beyond 12 yards. He kept giving the ball away. He couldn't continue to run. His combination play was bad. His overlapping was bad. His cross, everything was bad. I want to give a shout out to Ruki, who was talking about it in my post-match in the comments section, saying, how bad Jurrien Timber was. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think it's time for a change. But I also think, and we'll get into, when we get into the other parts of the game, I think there's a familiarity there with Ben White and some certain others that I think we need to exploit. This is, for me, getting back to basics. At the middle of the park here, I've listened to a few people talk to me saying stuff about let's get Norgard into the middle of the team. For me, I gotta stick with my partnership of Rice and Zubimendi. Now, if Zubimendi struggles, we can make that switch if we need to. But I do need the solidity, especially away from home. I do need the familiarity, the chemistry that I think these two team players have had throughout the year, kind of there to lean on today. And that's kind of what I'll go with in the center of the park there, if I'm Mikel Arteta. In the 10 role, I am restoring the skipper Martin Odegaard's position in the 10. That is what I'm going to be doing. Because, again, we got to go back to basics. Of course, you have to instill confidence in him. You have to kind of let him, with a bit between his teeth, prove to you why you shouldn't be writing this man off right now. He's had time to recover. I'm sure, I've heard his quotes since what happened against Brentford, and I'm sure he's keen to be making amends. But at the same time, I need my captain to be leading my team out in this fixture, in this North London derby. And again, of course, I think who I'm going to pick out on the right-hand side, but there are three players, right-hand combination that for years, Arsenal have leaned on and has been so fruitful to effect they almost have a telepathic connection. So I told you about Ben White, I put in Odegaard, and the other one is Saka, who's going to get his position back on the right-hand side. By the way, Madueke has played a lot of football recently. I just think he probably would be gassed by now as well, but it's another North London derby, and I need Saka out there. And Saka, by the way, just signed his new contract officially. So he is, for me, is going to have to be playing out on the right-hand side, and I think he can come up big. I think he's going to have a really good game. I feel it in my bones in this one. So again, just leaning back to basics. What works for this football team? I'm going to restore that 3-man pivot. Now, the other 2 players that I'm going to, a lot of people who've been calling for Trossard. I think Martinelli should not start. No way. I'm not giving what I'm saying. But guys, we can't call for Trossard to start this game. I'm sorry. Having seen him come on as a substitute and then come off with the concussion issues, if I don't have to, I'm not going to do it. Guys, the whole year, I have been waiting for us to deploy Saka, Eze, and Gyökeres with Odegaard behind as a front 4 or / front 3, whatever. And we haven't seen it once this season. Can we let Eze, a player who, by the way, had a hat trick in the reverse fixture to start this game, put him in a position where he can be platformed, where he can play with the freedom, where he can, use his talent and his ability and his raw pace, everything to get in behind and to exploit, and let him go out there and have some fun. You're going to have that platform of Rice and Zubimendi, and you're going to have Odegaard to him play with Odegaard. I love the idea of the 2 of them playing together, where Odegaard can have the freedom of the center, and Eze can be your man on the left, which I believe we signed him to be a playmaker out on that side. With Saka, with Gyökeres down the middle of the park. And let's go. Can we finally, Arteta, see, this is for me, this lineup is me simplifying things, but also us going with things that we should have been going for weeks. The whole thing that I think has been going on with Arsenal Football Club in the line, I'm listening to my boy James B, and he's right, which is Arteta has overcomplicated a lot of things, and I think a lot of these people at our club have... Arteta has sort of kind of got us into these arguments. Oh, Eze shouldn't be on the left. Eze shouldn't in the center. He's not good. This guy's not good enough here. The guy's good enough there. Gyökeres isn't good enough here. And by the way, sometimes we've been playing and set up in different ways. I feel like it's confused the crap out of the players, a lot of things. I think Arteta needs to take he's overthought a lot of things this season, and yeah, we're top. But I think it's a great time for him to simplify it. Put people in places where they feel is natural. And what people don't get about, Eze is a central player, not at Arsenal, not in the role that we require our 10 to play in our team. He's brought in to be our left-handed side guy. We thought that Martinelli and Trossard weren't good enough. And I'm sorry, neither of those 2 players have done enough for me to warrant starting in this game. Eze, by the way, recently had a really good game against Wigan. Let's just do it. By the way, he had a hat trick in this fixture. I mentioned that earlier in this little rant here. You got to play off of that. That Tottenham team would be fearful of him. They would have nightmares of what happened at the Emirates, and you got to play off of that. Now let's move on to the Tottenham side of things. This will be a fun game. So Igor Tudor, as I like to say, he likes to play a 3-4-2-1. So let's go with that for a second. Now Danzo is out. Romero and Van de Ven should both be available though for Spurs. Now who else is available? Is Draguzin available? He played the last game. He's not out. So yeah, I think they're gonna go with Draguzin, Van de Ven, and Romero was suspended. Right. Draguzin, Van de Ven. I mean, Ben Davies, is he out? I think he's out. We're probably going to stick Archie Gray in there. Okay, they're going to go Archie Gray as the other center back. By the way, Vicario, he's fit? Yeah, because you have to really double check with all of these guys. Right back, Porro is out. Udogie is out. Oh, so they're gonna have to probably more use they're probably gonna have to use a combination of probably a winger and a fullback. Jed Spence is fit and available, so I think Jed Spence probably will go in at right back, considering that's his more natural side. And on the other side, what are their options really? Who played on the left-hand side? Simmons played on the left-hand side. That would for me would be dangerous. So it's 3-4-2-1. You could play left-hand. Look at this. So left-handed side players, Kudus out. Is Tell available? I don't know if I could trust Tell to be playing if I'm them. They have Scarlett, who's mostly a striker. No, I wouldn't play him against the North London derby against Arsenal. Yeah, he needs the 2-1. I think he's going to platform Simmons in this game. Odegaard has got injured since he started out there up front. Oh my God, they're probably going to have to platform. Yeah, look at this. Solanke apparently is ill, but I think he's going to have to play. Kolo Muani. I think they probably have to platform Simmons and Bergvall as the 2 10s with Kolo Muani up front. I could imagine that because he used to play for Tudor at Juventus, so I think that's simple for him. Japalinia is fit, so I'd say he'd start probably with Conor Gallagher. I reckon they're probably going to do maybe they can go Gallagher left wing back, maybe. Sarr, I don't know. It's a very interesting. Okay, but they do have a Basuma fit. Bentancur is out, obviously. Oh, TBD on the left wing back. Literally, I do not know who goes in there. I mean, Gray is another candidate to go in there, but then maybe you put maybe they're going to drop Palhinha in the back 3. So actually, I think they'll go Palhinha. Okay, we'll write this. Let's start. Vicario, I've got this. Vicario, goalkeeper. Left back, Archie Gray. Left wing back. Right wing back, Jed Spence. Back 3, Van de Ven, Dragusin, and Japalinia. And the partnership in the middle of the park will be Pape Matar Sarr and Conor Gallagher. Yeah. And then Bergvall and Simmons with the sole striker up top, Randall Kolo Muani. That's again, it's I think that's a decent-ish lineup. I fully would hope that Arsenal would take advantage of that. And I do have my prediction, just to end this all off. 3-1 win. North London remains red. And I do think that Arsenal's going to really come at Tottenham. I actually expect it to be quick, to us to be coming at them from the start. And I think if we score first, I really kind of feel like that is kind of where this game ends. I do kind of see it being maybe we actually score the first 2-1, then Arsenal finish it off with a 3-1 or something like that. There might be a little bit of jeopardy at one point, but I do think that Arsenal might finish it off. I think Martinelli coming off the bench as a finisher could be a good one, or Trossard coming off the bench. Havertz has a chance to come off the bench as a 10 or a striker potentially. Arteta says he might be fit, so that I think that Arteta might have some good strings to play. Hopefully he can actually put Norgard in to close out the game. I think it might be a half-half situation with him and Zubi. Zubi starts, Norgard finishes it. But this is a must-win for Arsenal at all costs. Must-win for Spurs. But I just think, even though it's away from home, we've won our last 3 North London derbies at Tottenham. And we're going to have to make that 4 in a row. So let's see what happens. Finally, let's move on to the last game, Monday Night Football. We stuck on this fixture for a long time, but of course, this is Fire Them Cannons. Everton against Manchester United at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. By the way, did I go back? Actually, one more thing I want to talk about their Arsenal. The odds makers actually have Arsenal 155, Tottenham 550, draw 4. but of course you'll see on the graphics all the time, you know, the odds. Everton against Man United at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Man United are the favorites at 190, Everton at 375, draw 380. Now this, I've considered being an upset alert, but I think at the end of the day, I think United have a response for what happened against West Ham. I think they've had a long time to really think about it. They didn't play the FA Cup as well. So it's been like a week and a half, like 10 days or something to really sit on that one. And I do think, you know, by the way, they lost at home to Everton. Remember that game when Everton were down to 10 men? Everton were down 10 men in their most recent fixture as well. I have Man United winning 2-1 away from home. And yeah, this is a longer upset alert / Premier League preview show than I normally would do. But of course, it's a big weekend again, especially with the North London derby involved. One of these days, I do want to do a North London derby Thunderdome. I really do. I think this, given the Wolves result and where we are right now in the season, it wasn't a good time to do it. I'm just going to be perfectly frank. But yeah, we'll be back to review this, to review the North London derby. I believe we'll do the Anton and Cal show or an Arsenal Alliance, one of the two. I would love to do an Arsenal Alliance before, but I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately, at this point in time. So yeah, we'll be back, I believe, with an Anton and Cal show as our next video, and hopefully responding to an Arsenal win. Yeah, in the North London derby, which, by the way, I just want to say final point because it came to my head. I know I've got Newcastle losing. Newcastle losing, but Man City winning their game, right? But remember the last time when, you know, City beat Liverpool. You know, both of us won. The weekend started out on 6 points, ended on 6 points, and yet, you know, all the momentum was with Man City that weekend. We got to do the same trick this weekend, guys. Starts at 5, ends at 5, but Arsenal would have gotten a big win away from home in the North London derby to really make, you know, show everybody that we're not letting this thing slip. I think that could be a massive statement game, and that is be ready for it, because if we win against Tottenham, that's what my message will be on the terrace. That'll be my message on the Anton and Cal show. That'll be the message on wherever I am, Gooners Therapy, wherever. That will be it. And that's where I will end us on this one, guys. Anyway, guys, until the next time, enjoy the weekend's games, and I will see you guys later.